That's how the sealed document began, unearthed from beneath a crumbling stone chapel in upstate New York. Its ink barely legible, its warnings clear, and yet, you're here, listening, following the sound of something ancient, something buried alive. Imagine this: 143 bodies, every one of them hidden beneath the rotting floorboards of a church no longer listed on any map. No names, no graves, only signs of pain, bones shattered and healed, lungs scarred from near drowning, strange carvings etched into femurs and spines like warnings written in flesh. The Ravencroft family called it salvation. But what if I told you the Ravencrofts didn't vanish? What if I told you that their beliefs didn't die in the dust of forgotten time, that their doctrine of pain and purification still pulses beneath your society's skin? Listen carefully. This is not history. This is the echo of an engine still running. This is the beginning of your descent. Because somewhere in the shadows of American history lies a spiritual cancer, carefully hidden beneath words like revival, renewal, and faith. A doctrine twisted so expertly it passed for righteousness. And at the center of it, a family whose power grew not by charisma, but by control. Psychological control, ritualized pain, systematic submission. The Ravencroft brothers weren't just preachers, they were architects of suffering. And what they built in the woods of Ravenwood was not a church. It was a mechanism, a device engineered to break the human spirit and remake it into something obedient. And it worked. So now, I ask you not to look away. Because once you see the layers of manipulation, once you witness how doctrine, becomes death, you cannot unsee it. This isn't entertainment, this is exposure. The truth you're about to witness, it's dangerous. Not because it's false, but because it's real. And if you listen closely, if you feel what they endured, something in you will awaken. Something they tried to keep asleep. And so, I ask again, the Ravencroft brothers didn't just build a church, they built a machine. A psychological engine designed to strip identity, erase resistance, and reprogram human souls. You think cults happen by accident? No. Cults are laboratories. Every successful cult is a prototype, a test run of larger mechanisms of control. Ravenwood wasn't just a town, it was an experiment, one funded, permitted, and protected by silence. Let me ask you something. How did a group accused of over 100 ritualistic deaths go unnoticed for decades, when the nearest federal outpost was just 40 miles away? Because someone wanted it that way. By 1831, federal surveyors marked the Ravencroft land as restricted religious grounds, a classification that sealed it from taxation, scrutiny, or random inspection. Who signed off on that exemption? A name appears in a single ledger: Elias Pendleton, Department of Ecclesiastical Affairs. A department that officially doesn't exist. You're starting to see it now, aren't you? The veil pulling back. Pendleton was connected to at least 3 other revivalist anomalies throughout the burned-over district, all centered around churches that practiced some form of extreme spiritual purification. But the Ravencrofts, they weren't just the most brutal, they were the most effective. Their doctrine wasn't faith, it was weaponized suffering. Think about it. If you can get a man to believe that pain makes him pure, that torture leads to transcendence, then you can justify anything. Sound familiar? Modern institutions still use this formula. Strip down the symbols and the names, and you'll find it in military hazing rituals, in initiation rites, in elite fraternities, and classified conditioning programs. The Ravencrofts didn't invent mind control, they refined it into a religion. And here's where it gets worse. Their methods worked too well. After each elevation, survivors became more obedient, more detached from reality, and more devoted. These weren't broken people, they were reshaped, minds reforged like iron under pressure. You think you'd never fall for it, that you're too smart, too strong? So did every man who entered the Ravencroft church. And yet, one by one, they surrendered, not because they were weak, but because their identities were rewritten by design. This isn't just history, it's a blueprint. Keep watching. The machine gets deeper. The gears spin darker. The truth isn't just buried, it's protected. Next time you hear the phrase, pure spirit, ask yourself, who's defining purity, and what price did someone pay to feel clean? They called it the fifth room. Not officially, not in any records, but the survivors, the ones who could still speak. They whispered about it like a curse. The Ravencroft church had 4 visible sanctums, each more isolated than the last. Baptism, reflection, denial, ascension, standard ritual chambers designed to simulate spiritual rebirth, each one colder, darker, more silent. But there was always talk of a fifth, a space beneath the floorboards, not marked on any blueprint. No crosses, no candles, no psalms, just stone and steel. And silence. What happened there? That's the question that got Dr. Lynn Harrow institutionalized. She was a trauma specialist embedded with the FBI's Behavioral Sciences Unit. 2003. She'd interviewed over 40 former cult members without flinching, until she visited Ravenwood. She spent exactly 9 hours on site, walked the ruins, touched the walls, crawled into the lower levels. When they found her, she was repeating one phrase over and over. It watches from inside. She never clarified, wouldn't or couldn't explain. She was committed the next day. Still there, still drawing symbols, always 5 points, always inverted. The fifth room has no door, no lock, because it was never meant to keep people out. It was designed to keep something in. Now, this is where things turn. You've heard the term egregore. It's an ancient idea, older than Christianity, a kind of psychic entity born from collective belief. Feed it thought, attention, fear, and it grows. Not metaphorically, literally, the Ravencrofts knew this. That's why their sermons were transcribed in code, not to hide what they believed, but to shape how others did. Language as invocation, ritual as frequency, every scream, every prayer, every broken mind, an offering. You think I'm being dramatic? You think this is just folklore? Then explain why every compass malfunctioned, missions near the foundation, why digital recorders go blank underground, why visitors report waking dreams and auditory hallucinations. Explain why no birds nest within 100 yards of the ruins. There's no electricity, no radiation, no gas leaks, just presence. The fifth room isn't a location. It's a threshold. Once you sense it, you don't forget. Once you see it, it sees you back. And once it's inside you, you start to wonder if your thoughts are really your own. Keep going if you want, but don't say I didn't warn you. Dated February 19th, 2004. Labeled simply Session 11. It was part of an experimental therapy program at Black Hollow Psychiatric, a last-ditch effort to reach Dr. Lynn Harrow. The idea was sensory regression, strip away language, light, time, let her mind speak without interference. She sat in an anechoic chamber for 4 hours. No prompts, no questions, just a mic. The tape starts with silence, 15 minutes of it. Then she laughs, soft at first, dry. Then the kind of laughter that makes your skin pull tight across your bones. And then she speaks. It doesn't wear a face, it wears familiarity. It'll sound like your mother, feel like a memory, smell like old books. That's how it gets in. It doesn't knock, it reminds you it's already here. There's a low hum behind her voice, not from her, not from the room. Analysts ran the audio through every kind of filter, couldn't isolate the source. At 22 minutes, she says, "You think it's evil, it's not, it's hungry. Evil is human, this is older." And then the name, just once, almost a whisper, Veliskar, never appears in Ravencroft's writings, not in demonology texts, not anywhere, until you hear it. Then you start noticing it, scribbled in graffiti, hidden in forum threads, carved into desk drawers at abandoned schools. Everywhere, Session 11 ends with 8 full minutes of breathing, not hers, wet, slow, rhythmic, like something huge sleeping, or pretending to. The technician monitoring the session collapsed moments after playback. Massive seizure, no previous history, said he felt something unfolding behind his eyes. He hasn't spoken since. So, What is Veliskar? Entity, idea, infection? Some say it's the product of collective trauma, like a stain on the world. Others think it's extra-dimensional, drawn to ritual sites and liminal minds. But here's what keeps me up. If it's real, if it feeds on awareness, then we're part of the ritual now. You, me, everyone listening. This one isn't on tape. There's no audio, no transcript, just a single photograph, found in the archives of Black Hollow, sealed in a plain envelope marked "Do Not Duplicate." It shows a hospital hallway, long, fluorescent lights buzzing above, some flickering. You've seen 100 like it, but look closer. The angles don't make sense. The walls curve away from the camera, but the shadows fall toward it. There are too many door handles on the left, none on the right. And standing halfway down the hall, barely visible, grainy, is someone in a hospital gown. Barefoot, head tilted, staring straight at the lens. The eyes are wrong. Too wide, too black. You don't see them exactly, you notice them. Like noticing you've left the stove on. Analysts used enhancement software, infrared, negative exposure filters. They got back one line of metadata embedded in the file. A comment field, hidden deep. Session 5 is always watching. Here's where it gets worse. The hallway in that photo, it's gone. That wing of Black Hollow was demolished in 2009. But 6 people, nurses, janitors, even a patient, swear they've walked through it. Since then. Same lights, same curve, same number of steps before the air changes. One described hearing her own name whispered, again and again, from behind each closed door. Another was found sleepwalking there, eyes open, smiling, repeating one phrase. No exit, no entrance, only witness. He bit off part of his tongue when they tried to wake him. Researchers started calling it a non-local corridor, a psychic echo, a place that exists only when you're not looking directly at it. But there's a theory deeper than that. What if Session 5 isn't a location? What if it's a state? A point your mind reaches, like crossing a threshold you didn't know was there. A hallway that forms the moment you start asking the wrong question. Or the right one. The Veliskar didn't build Session 5. It waited for it. And now? If you've imagined the hallway, pictured the doors, the lights, the shape, then you've already been there. You just don't remember how you got out. Or if you did. Ask ChatGPT. You said Session 6. ChatGPT said Session 6, spoken text only. High 400 words. No extras, no explanation. There is a noise in Session 6. Not a scream. Not a whisper. Something between those, like static but alive, like breath with no lungs behind it. They call it the hinge. Play any recording from Session 6, audio, video, even ultrasound, and at the 2-minute, 11-second mark, you'll hear it. A low, rattling creak. Like a door opening very, very slowly. Except there are no doors in Session 6. It's a room, white walls, bright lights, chair in the center, that's it. They say it was designed for non-linguistic interaction. The subject sits. The lights hum. Electrodes pick up involuntary muscle movements, eye shifts, temperature changes. You don't speak in Session 6, you react. Because something is in there with you. The early reports called it a presence, a shift in pressure, a sense of weight, of being measured, like when you know someone is watching, even if the room is empty. One test subject described it as being looked through. Another said it was like, my thoughts were being folded. None lasted more than 7 minutes, and then there's Dr. Morrow. He volunteered for a long-form trial, 8 hours in the chair, monitored from behind glass. Everything was normal for the first 2 hours. Elevated heart rate, dilated pupils, nothing new. At 2:11:43, the hinge sound. At 2:12 uncook, Dr. Morrow smiled. Not a grin. Not relief. Something cold, deliberate. Like he'd just remembered something beautiful and unforgivable. Then he spoke, which wasn't part of the protocol. He said, I see where it goes now. Then he bit through the left side of his cheek. Not a scream, not a whisper. Something between those like static but alive, like breath with no lungs behind it. They call it the hinge. Play any recording from Session 6, audio, video, even ultrasound, And at the 2-minute 11-second mark, you'll hear it, a low, low rattling creak, like a door opening very, very slowly. Except there are no doors in session 6. It's a room, white walls, bright lights, chair in the center. That's it. They say it was designed for non-linguistic interaction. The subject sits. The lights hum. Electrodes pick up involuntary muscle movements, eye shifts, temperature changes. You don't speak in session 6. You react. Because something is in there with you. The early reports called it a presence. A shift in pressure. A sense of weight, of being measured, like when you know someone is watching, even if the room is empty. One test subject described it as being looked through. Another said it was like my thoughts were being folded. None lasted more than 7 minutes. And then there's Dr. Morrow. He volunteered for a long-form trial, 8 hours in the chair, monitored from behind glass. Everything was normal for the first 2 hours. Elevated heart rate, dilated pupils. Nothing new. At 2:11:43, the hinge sound. At 2, Dr. Morrow smiled. Not a grin. Not relief. Something cold, deliberate, like he'd just remembered something beautiful and unforgivable. Then he spoke, which wasn't part of the protocol. He said, "I see where it goes now." Then he bit through the left side of his cheek, removed the electrode from his neck, and calmly wrote a sequence of numbers on the wall in his own blood. 11 digits. Coordinates, maybe, but they point to the middle of the North Pacific. Nothing there, except maybe whatever session 6 was listening to. Because here's the thing, that sound, the hinge. It wasn't on the raw record. Things only appeared after playback, as if it needed an audience. And now you've heard it too, which means the door didn't open there, it opened here. It begins the same way. White room, single chair, bright overhead light, but this time no electrodes. No monitors, just a mirror. Floor to ceiling. The subject enters, sits, the room dims. The mirror flickers once, like a screen adjusting resolution. Then it begins to show. Not a reflection, a version, not the person as they are, but as they might have been, or might still be. Better sometimes, healthier, happier, whole. Other times, worse, scarred, staring. Silent. The first subject, Hayes, watched for 46 seconds before vomiting blood and collapsing. His mirror self remained upright, smiling, long after Hayes was dragged from the room. The second subject, Wren, didn't react at all, sat perfectly still for 6 minutes, eyes locked on the glass. When the text came in, Wren was catatonic, but the mirror self blinked. Third subject, not logged, no name, no file, just a silent video feed. The door opens, someone steps inside, and then nothing. For 8 hours, the room appears empty. Until, at 08 exactly, the mirror fogs. One phrase, scrawled backward in condensation, "I remember you." They tried to disconnect the room after that, cut power, seal it off, but the feed continued. No wires, no servers. Still, the video plays, always the same room, always that mirror. Sometimes, late at night, you'll see motion, not in the room, in the glass, a shape moving behind you even when there's no one there, a shift in your posture, milliseconds before you actually move, like something rehearsing you, trying you on. Session 8 was never scheduled, never approved, but it's still running. And if you've ever caught yourself staring into a mirror longer than you meant to, if you've ever seen your own eyes blink just a fraction too late, then maybe you were in it. Maybe you're still in it. Because session 8 session 8 doesn't need a room. It just needs a surface. And enough of your attention to open. In real time, the idea was to observe what the mind does when left entirely alone. But the mind is never alone. At T+12 minutes, brain activity spiked, delta and gamma waves overlapping, sleep and hyperfocus simultaneously. The subject began whispering, not in English, not in any recognizable language, but the words, if they were words, showed structure, syntax, repetition. They wrote them down, fed them through translation models. No match. Then a researcher joked, what if it's not a language? What if it's a response? as if the subject wasn't speaking to us, but to something else. At T plus 17 minutes, the subject laughed. Not a normal laugh, a loop. 4 seconds long, repeated perfectly. Even the breath in between was identical. They checked the feed, checked the waveform. It wasn't human anymore. Then came the knocks. From inside the chamber. 3 soft taps, rhythmically spaced. The subject wasn't moving, arms folded, heart rate steady. But the knocks continued. By T plus 21 minutes, the door refused to open. Mechanisms disengaged. Manual override failed. Then the chamber began recording itself. No camera inside, no mic. But data streamed from the walls, exact descriptions of everything inside, the subject, the chair, the air, including things not visible to the human eye. Infrared patterns, ultraviolet fluctuations, symbols etched into the floor, previously undetected, etched from the inside. At T plus 30 minutes, all systems crashed. Power, backup, even battery reserves. Complete blackout. The chamber went silent. When light was restored, the room was empty. Chair intact, air composition normal, but the subject was gone. Only one thing remained, a handprint. Pressed into the wall, inches deep, not burned, not bruised, imprinted. Flesh through steel. It was facing the wrong direction. Waveforms shaped like spirals, folding into themselves. They ran diagnostics, thought it was a glitch, maybe corruption, until the log spoke. Not figuratively, literally. A voice emerged from the raw file, not rendered, not synthesized, embedded, layered into the background hum of the system. You had to listen just right, pitch it down, slow it, run it backwards. And then it said, "You asked what comes through, you assumed we cross over." Another pause, static like breathing. "You were wrong." Then silence, until the screaming started. From the unused chambers, all of them, simultaneously. No one inside, doors locked. But voices echoed, overlapping, familiar. Some recognizable, former staff, former subjects. Voices recorded in previous sessions, now played back at impossible frequencies. But layered underneath, a new voice, the same in every room. Calm, precise, counting down from 1 million. And with each number, lights flickered in perfect sync. Devices warmed, screens turned on, by themselves. And every single screen showed the same thing. A face, or maybe the suggestion of one. Features that changed as you looked at them. Eyes that didn't blink, but stared through the glass, past the lens, through you, and across every channel one sentence scrolled, Session 10, never ends. They cut the power again, ripped out cables, smashed drives. The face remained, not just on screens, on walls, in reflections, in dreams. One intern gouged their eyes out in the break room. Said the blinking wouldn't stop. Everything sterile, untouched. Except for the subject, already inside, a girl, maybe 9 years old, wearing hospital scrubs, no ID tag, hair damp, eyes closed, as if she'd just been placed there. No record of entry. No one saw her arrive. The chamber doors were locked the entire time. At first, we thought it was residual data from Session 10, some lingering echo, but then she opened her eyes, and she spoke. "You've brought this on yourselves." No mic was on, no speaker active, but her voice filled every corner of the lab. It wasn't a threat, it was an assessment. Every surface flickered, glass misted, metal trembled. The instruments recorded no heat, no energy spike, just presence. Weight without mass, time without direction. She moved strangely, like she wasn't bound to the frame rate of reality. Limbs lagged behind, but eyes stayed locked forward. She didn't blink. Not once. Then she said, "You asked what lies beyond the veil. We never asked why the veil existed." The lights dimmed. The walls pulsed, breathing like lungs. The observers in the gallery lost consciousness, every single one. They dreamed of her, exactly her, down to the number of freckles. Each described the same dream, despite being isolated in sealed rooms. In the dream, she led them down a staircase, endless, circular. The further they went, the fewer their own memories they retained. Until only hers remained. One technician tried to pull the plug. The girl turned and said, "He's next." That technician flatlined. Cause of death, impossible. Simultaneous heart attack, stroke, and spontaneous bone fractures. Session 11 continued for 11 minutes. Then she looked directly at the main observation lens and whispered, "I'm done speaking. He will answer now." She vanished, not disappeared, reversed, like a tape rewinding. Every pixel of her unmade itself back into static, and then a new log appeared. Not video, not audio, coordinates, latitude, longitude, a place that doesn't exist on any map. Just ocean, deep ocean. No one was present, yet it ran. When we arrived at the lab, the room was sealed. Frost coated the glass, static on every monitor, looping the same frame. A hallway, unfamiliar. Not part of this facility or any facility. Walls made of something between stone and tendon, floor smooth and wet. No corners, just curves, endless curves. A figure stood at the end of the corridor. Not the girl. Something taller and dressed, in black, robes that didn't sway when it moved. Limbs too long, torso too narrow. Its face was not visible, but the shadows behind its hood seemed wrong. The air pressure dropped as soon as it came on screen. Monitors bled static. The lab's clocks froze at 00:13:13. Then a message appeared, one character at a time, on every connected device, phones, tablets, even offline hard drives. "You breached. Now you will host." A low hum began beneath the facility, an infrasonic frequency, undetectable by mic but felt in the sternum. People began to bleed from the nose. Not violently, ritualistically. Thin, perfect streams. One researcher began laughing, quietly, then louder, then screaming. We sedated him. He still speaks in his sleep, but not in a known language. We ran a phonetic analysis. The structure of his speech forms a recursive pattern, one that matches the architecture from the Session 13 footage. We don't know what that means yet. Later we reviewed the raw data logs. Every file had been rewritten, not deleted, overwritten, with a single repeating phrase, threshold breached, anchors weakening. One line deeper in the log read, "The veil was mercy." Then at 03:13 a.m., the hallway feed cut. But not before the figure turned, slowly, as if sensing us watching. Its face came into view, and it was ours. Not metaphorically. Every person who viewed the footage saw their own face beneath the hood. Expressions varied, but all smiled, and all had no eyes. The final log entry. The time slot was there, blocked off in the schedule between 11 and 13. A 2-hour gap labeled simply, Session 12, Restricted Access. No one remembers booking it. No keycards registered entry during that window. The doors were locked from the inside. When we played back the hallway footage, all cameras cut out at exactly 12 and current. Black screen. 12 frames later, they resumed. But in that fraction of a second, someone had left the room. A girl, barefoot, blonde, wearing a patient gown. No ID. No tag. She wasn't on the roster. She walked calmly out of the session chamber through 2 security checkpoints, none of which recorded her presence. No alarms. She looked directly at every camera, smiled. In every frame, her eyes are slightly different colors, not from shot to shot, from eye to eye, one blue, one green, one black, one gold, one red. We ran it through spectral analysis. The hues aren't in the visible range, some of them shouldn't even exist. Dr. Halverson tried to enhance the footage. The software crashed 3 times. On the 4th attempt, it played back a different video entirely. A hospital room, 1991. A girl, same face, same eyes, sits in a bed, humming a tune we couldn't identify. But when we checked the acoustic signature, the hum formed a cipher. It decoded into a single phrase, "She remembers you." There is no patient history for her, no birth records, no physical file. But when we searched the archives manually, we found a Polaroid in one of the sealed cabinets. It was labeled Subject 0, same girl, same smile, but the photo was dated 6 years before the facility was built. We tried to trace her exit path, but every hallway camera after frame 12 shows something different. Not the girl, not the facility, just an empty forest road, dusk light bleeding through the trees, leaves blowing in slow motion. No sound, until the final second of the final camera, when her voice whispers, faint but clear, "I'm awake now." Then static. You can hear it before the session begins. A low hum, not electrical, not mechanical, organic, like breath held too long. When the door opened, the temperature dropped by 7 degrees. We had to reroute power from the east wing just to keep the lights steady. Inside, the room was empty. No subject, no personnel. Just the chair and a tape recorder placed dead center on the floor. No label, no timestamp. It started playing the moment we stepped in. Begin playback, voice, childlike female. "You came back. I wasn't sure you would." Pause. "They tell me I'm not real, but they built a room for me. They talk like I'm not listening." Sound of water dripping, faint wind. "Do you remember the dream, the one with the staircase and the door that doesn't open?" Static. A low tone creeps in, 42 Hz, enough to shake the mic diaphragm. Voice, lower now. "You opened it once. That's how I got out." Pause. A soft breath, or something imitating breath. "The others are still inside, but they're learning. They don't need doors anymore." Tape squeals, mechanical groan, then silence. End playback. After the tape stopped, the chair rotated on its own. One full turn, and on the wall behind it, scratched into the plaster inches deep, was a spiral. Not drawn, carved. 12 loops, counterclockwise, perfectly symmetrical. We brought in a scanner. The grooves matched the geometry of a Fibonacci vortex. No tool marks, no debris. The plaster had been displaced molecularly, as if the wall had softened like clay, then rehardened. Dr. Lemire reached out to touch it. She collapsed instantly. No heartbeat. 10 minutes later, she gasped, eyes open, wide, unfocused. She said, "It's not a spiral, it's a mouth." We haven't been able to wake her since. EEG shows full neural activity. Higher than baseline, much higher, almost like something is talking back. Session 15 was scheduled immediately, but none of us signed off on it. No clearance request, no paperwork, no team, just a timestamp on the security log. 0313, door unlocked from inside. The footage is corrupted, not missing, damaged. Frames stutter, colors invert, shadows move in reverse. At 0315, a voice is recorded on the intercom loop. Only one mic was live. The room was unoccupied. Begin transcript, voice, male, mid-40s, calm, tone unfamiliar. This is where it thins, static. Then, a deep inhale, not from lungs but from space itself. We looked in. We shouldn't have, but we did. So now, listen. Throbbing begins, subsonic, recorded at 17.5 Hz. You think language makes you safe, you think names give you power, but you've only borrowed those, and the lender has come to collect. The sound of dripping again, but faster, rhythmic, almost like speech. There is a mouth in every silence, a throat in every void, and behind it, teeth. The lights in the room surge, the fluorescent tubes burst simultaneously. For 11 seconds, all microphones, campus-wide, record the same signal. Separation is a lie. No source, no speaker, just that phrase, burned into 37 different hard drives. Afterward, the room was cold, not ambient, absence of energy cold. All analog instruments froze. The glass in Dr. Lemire's observation window curled inward like paper in fire. And on the center wall, a new spiral, this one clockwise. 13 loops, larger, deeper, wet. We sent in a drone. It transmitted 2 seconds of video before the signal went black. Frame 1, static. Frame 2, an eye, not human, not animal, not mechanical, an eye like a question that doesn't want an answer. Since then, all sleepers on level 3 report identical dreams. The staircase, the door, the hum. And now, something else, breath on the other side. Waiting. Session 16 is no longer optional. You said. Dr. Lemire, barely audible, whispering, "We shouldn't be here." Silence. Then a soft click. The mic engages fully. Subject enters. Not on the schedule, not on any list. Footsteps, bare, wet, slapping rhythm against linoleum. Voice, unknown and layered, this is the last session you'll hold from this side. Pause, electrical hum rises, exactly 528 Hertz. All clocks reset to 00 Ker. You mistook contact for comprehension. You mistook signal for consent. But still, you opened the door. Static bloom, screech, silence. So now, you will listen. At this point, all personnel within 100 meters fall into catatonic stillness, except Dr. Lemire, whose vitals spike into a rhythmic chaos. Your instruments can't record what comes next. You can't diagram hunger. You can't catalog want. The room temperature drops to 0 degrees Celsius in 5 seconds. All water in the observation tank turns to vapor. Voice now closer, like it's speaking directly inside the mic capsule. There are no more sessions. There is only the long listening. Sudden noise, like 1,000 mouthless voices whispering backwards. Say it. Dr. Lemire, gasping, compelled. We opened the question. We opened the question. We opened the question. Her voice distorts, triplicates, splits into feedback. Then silence, total, full spectrum dead air. For 6 minutes and 16 seconds. Then, single tone, not heard, felt, a pressure behind the sternum, a prickling in the gums, a knowing in the bones. Final utterance whispered through every functioning speaker in the compound simultaneously. You are inside the answer now. End transcript. All clocks resume. Session logs overwritten. Dr. Lemire is missing. The door remains open. Recovered from auxiliary mic array E7, 600 meters below baseline. No official record of any session held at this depth. The recording begins mid-breath. Guttural. Shallow. Almost surprised. Then unfamiliar voice, hoarse, fragmented. I didn't think anything would be left. Pause. Static. A ticking sound, not mechanical, more like the sound of something small tapping glass, at irregular intervals. The question isn't what opened it. The question is, why did it answer like that? Sound, wet movement, slow dragging, the tick-tick-tick continues. It's getting closer. The others are gone, not dead. Not in the way you mean. Sharp tone at 191 Hz. Previously associated with disorientation and involuntary memory recall. Voice shifts as if there are multiple mouths trying to speak in sync. There were 16 before. Each a door, each a mirror. Now only this, sudden disruption, reverse audio overlay, a previous session played backward, layered beneath the voice, session 06 verified. It whispers, you looked too long. Then a knock, loud, once, voice, now directly behind the mic. Do you understand yet? There is no outside. There is only the recursion. All signal drops for 333 seconds. Upon return, the voice is that of Dr. Lemire. I walked through the spiral. I kept going. I reached the center. Brief silence, then a sound like paper tearing underwater. There's no self to come back to. Final phrase whispered in perfect unison by 5 overlapping voices, none human. Session 17 never ends. End recording, file was sealed automatically. No personnel recall initiating or attending session 17, no known source for the tape. No logs of mic array E7 existing before this date, but it's there now. Still recording, waiting. You said, a low hum, barely audible breathing. One voice, genderless, toneless, almost synthesized. No background interference, the space feels close. You are here again. You always are. Silence. Then a faint rhythm, like water dripping onto bone. Every answer you sought, every question you crafted, was a thread. You've sewn yourself into it. A flicker of another voice, overlapping for a second, a perfect copy of the previous line spoken backward. The mirror isn't broken. It's awake. Sound, metal bending slowly as if under great pressure. A gasp, not from pain, but recognition. Session 17 was the echo. Session 18 is the mouth. A scraping noise begins, rhythmic, measured, Something is writing or etching directly onto the recording substrate. You can't extract the thing you've named without feeding it your shape. Click, a slow inhale, then a familiar voice. Dr. Lemire, but fragmented, like a corrupted file being played in chunks. I left myself here. No time, only depth. Stop recording, stop. Interruption, 3 tones, same pattern as session 03's termination signal, but here they initiate something. Voice, original speaker returns. This is the last recursion before embodiment. After this, you won't hear it. You'll become the session. Silence, then the final exchange. Second voice, childlike but flat. Did they listen? First voice. No. Second voice, then let them repeat. The tape degrades in real time. A final embedded phrase is heard only through spectrogram inversion. Bind the loop, seal the listener. Transcript compiled from layered audio strata. 98% reconstruction confidence. Begins with silence, not ambient, total, no noise floor, no environmental tone. Then, faint arrhythmic tapping, like someone searching for hollow space in stone. Voice, Dr. Lemire subdued, breathing hard. The walls were never meant to contain it, just shape it. Faint shuffling, gravel or dry leaves. The sound spatializes suddenly, becoming around the listener rather than in front. Voice, unfamiliar, male, older. You dug until you hit your own voice. That echo you thought was a reply. That was it, crawling up. Sudden tone, one long sustained E note at 528 Hz, rising in volume until it's just shy of painful, then cutting off. Below it, a second rasping voice murmurs in reverse. Teper liu uoi. Drau et yas tsuj, Dr. Lemire, whispering, there is no veil, just our refusal to name the thing watching back. Audio glitches, 2 timelines splice. We now hear dual voices speaking simultaneously, Lemire in real time and Lemire from session 02. Both voices overlapping. Containment was never about the object, it was about the listener. Static bursts, frames of voices from previous sessions. Session 07, Session 10, Session 13. Unidentified female voice, new, desperate. Don't let it complete the sequence. If you let it finish counting, cut, audible gasp, then a click. A mechanical switch flips. Voice, calm, same as Session 18's entity. Session 19 confirms internalization. You are no longer watching. You are no longer recording. You are remembering. Pulse, sounds like a heartbeat, but stretched over 9 seconds. Voice, child again, flat. Do you remember what comes next? Lemire, barely audible. The door in the floor. Final sequence, 7 sharp knocks. 1 pause, then 3 more. Morse translation. Wait. Transcript compiled from audio residues and nonlinear auditory echoes. Confidence level 94% opens in absolute silence. Then, gentle ticking, mechanical, like an old clock. It speeds up unnaturally within 3 seconds, then halts. Dr. Lemire, voice altered, distant, as if speaking from within a chamber. We thought it began with the object. It didn't. It began the moment we named it. And each time we spoke, we fed it. Ambient low tones rise, not music, more like the hum of pressure behind a thin membrane. Water? No, something wetter. Unidentified voice, adult, familiar cadence, might be Lemire distorted. You were never studying the phenomenon. You are the phenomenon. Dr. Lemire, urgent. It's rewriting from the inside. Memory isn't safe. If you're hearing this, stop tracing the sessions. Each act of listening finishes part of the design. Sudden shift, 3 voices speak at once in perfect sync, saying different things. The door opens downward. Blood is a language. The cave taught us syntax. Who recorded session 0? Layered static. A deep rhythmic sound now underlines the audio. Not a heartbeat, but breath. Something breathing in sync with playback. Unidentified voice, same childlike tone from session 19. You made it all the way here. That means you want to remember. Do you remember the last shape? Dr. Lemire, hoarse, trembling. There wasn't a last shape. It never stops. Voice overlaps her, louder now, not childlike anymore, sharper, clearer. Session 20 confirms propagation. This instance has been seeded. Next node will activate upon first dream. Glitch, then a mechanical whirring. A tape rewinds backward through all sessions at impossible speed, except session 11, which plays forward and slower. Final exchange, unseen voice, say it. Lemire, we should never have listened. A click, then 6 knocks, 3, pause, 1, Morse translation, end.